A wise man once said, when we've chosen to take a different path, we must be prepared to do things differently and be willing to come into conflict with those who would have us do otherwise. Think about this. What happens when you decide to do something different? Do people encourage you? Not really. Some may be challenged by your choice, while others may actually be threatened by it. But few will applaud it. The path that you've taken as a home educator is a decision to do something different. And with that comes the challenges and conflicts of those who would prefer that you do like everybody else. What is it that makes people react, sometimes violently, when someone challenges their position on a matter? To answer that question, we need to consider the root cause or the foundational premise that directs the actions of people. That brings us to the importance of worldview. Worldview is defined as what is unquestionably assumed to be true about oneself and the world around us. Let me repeat that. Worldview is defined as what is unquestioningly assumed to be true about oneself and the world around us. The whole idea of worldview actually is the world's replacement for a word that the worldly really don't like to use, and that word is faith. So instead of asking, what faith do you belong to? We sort of make it more generic and downplay its meaning, I guess, by saying that it is a worldview rather than a faith. Now, if we were to define faith, faith is defined as a strongly held belief or theory, and worldview as what is unquestionably assumed to be true about oneself and the world around us. There's not much difference in those two definitions, and we can see that they are connected as faith is the foundation of worldview. Quite frankly, they are the same because both are established on our perception of God. Everybody has a worldview or faith foundation. One of the greatest tricks of the world is to say, I'm not religious. Well, I've never in my entire life met a person who wasn't religious, for the simple reason that there's no such thing as a person on earth that does not have a worldview or faith system. If you've lived, you've experienced things, you've heard things, you've been told things, you've read things, everything that you've been exposed to has been a part of what formulated your worldview. Whether right or wrong, true or false, reality or otherwise, everyone has a worldview based on all of our personal experiences, whether we're aware of it or not. Some people can actually point to it and give it a name. Other people don't know that they have one, but indeed they do. And like I said before, it's based on our perception of God. Now, bringing this into education, how many people have actually been home educated? Very few, I venture to guess. Most of us are actually doing something that we never experienced ourselves as students. It sort of puts us in a position where we're telling our children to do something that we've never done. A bit of a challenge, to be sure, as it must begin with our correcting the errors in our worldview. So really, when we stop to think of it, what do you think is going to happen when someone starts to talk to you as a home educator and asks, what experience have you had with home education? Well, nearly all of us have been to school, so what do we bring with us? What is our worldview in regards to education? It is probably what we've experienced, which is, most likely, school. So what 99% of the people do when they first start home educating? Well, probably bring the school home, because that's all we've ever experienced. That's our worldview. We're comfortable there because that's what we've come to believe is true. I want to challenge that worldview as it relates to education. It's important because your worldview becomes the foundation of every decision that you're going to make in your life, including all the decisions you will make regarding the education of your children. It's important because you want to make the best decisions, and you're making that decision is going to be based upon what you believe to be true. I find it's almost impossible for me to start any presentation or session on any topic without first talking about worldview. I think it's that important. Debates that we may have usually boil down to an expression of faith or our strongly held belief or theory in a matter. What are we placing our faith in? Where is our worldview? Since our worldview and faith is the foundation of our spiritual intellectual being, it becomes our bias. As a matter of fact, you can see this throughout the world. The Jewish people believe that their worldview is a correct one, and everyone else falls under the category of Gentile. The Muslim folks figure that their worldview is a correct one, and everyone else falls under the category of infidel. The Christian worldview also believes that it's the right one. And I happen to believe that it actually is the right one. And everybody else falls in the other category referred to generally as unbelievers. All these are faith categories and therefore all are worldviews. So whether Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or any other religion, all worldviews really have two perspectives. One in keeping with what one believes, and the other which is what everybody else believes or anything that does not agree with what we believe. This creates an environment of us versus them. If you think about this, it is likely the reason for every war that has ever been fought. Both sides see the other side as the other guys who don't but should believe as they do. And they're willing to fight over it, whether with words or with actions.